Hey guys, it's Karen, my review for The Favourite. And what The Favourite is essentially about is we center on the character of Queen Anne. She is someone who has become a very frail and just very sort of age. She's aging woman, and basically because of this, she's someone who she's a very untraditional type of queen, and basically her main sort of confidant, Sarah, has basically taken the reins from her. She makes most of the decisions on her own. The two have a very close relationship, but this is very much apprehended by the arrival of Sarah's cousin Abigail, who starts off as just simply a maid for them. She's just looking to be employed, but as the film starts to go on, Abigail starts to notice the relationship that these two share, and wanting to, basically bond further with Queen Anne, Sarah and Abigail start to detest each other, and so the rest of the film becomes them basically competing for Queen Anne's affections and hopefully becoming the title of her favorite, and that's really all I'm going to say. So The Favourite overall, I was obviously hyped for this film. If you guys know, I am a huge fan of Yorgos Lanthimos. Both of his films, The Lobster and The Killing of a Sacred Deer, I've absolutely adored. I think The Lobster is still one of the most creative movies of the entire decade, and Killing of a Sacred Deer wasn't too far off. I thought that it was a very sadistic and definitely a very vile film, but in a way that worked, in a way that was telling a very interesting story. And what was most interesting to me about The Favor is that it seemed like it was going to do away with most of his tropes. There wasn't stilted dialogue. There wasn't going to be the characters that talk in this weird sort of tone and things like that. That wasn't really going to be here. So I was very interested in seeing how The Favourite would turn out, and I have to say, coming out of it, The Favourite is pretty much every bit as good as you've heard. I really adored this film a lot. This is another hit from Yorgos Lanthimos for sure. There is a lot to really love about this film. We're just getting into right now, starting off with the cast. Now, when you're working with a trio like the one in this film, people who are just so talented and are working to the best of their ability, it really is hard to pick a standout, and I really do think all of them do a very good job. However, if someone were to say that Olivia Colman is a standout, I completely understand that because she absolutely kills it here. I mean, is this someone that is very annoying? Yes, she defies every single quality that you want in a queen. This is not someone who is ladylike. This is not someone who has manners. This is not even someone that seems to show much concern for her fellow subjects. I mean, she constantly is just barking orders at people. However, when you really peel back the layers of her, you realize this is a woman who is very much hurting and has gone through a lot of traumatic events in her life. And because of that, she really does close herself off from people, and it's really those smaller moments when I really do think she stands out here. She has some incredible stuff in this film. Her scenes with both Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz are both fantastic. I loved what she did here, and I thought that she definitely gave a fantastic performance. I can totally understand the acclaim that she's been getting. It is very much warranted, and I really love what she did here. However, surprisingly for me, if I had to pick a standout here, it would actually be Rachel Weisz, who I think gives the performance of her career. I loved what she did in this movie. And look, she starts off and she's very unlikable. From the second Abigail is there, she just hates her. She despises her. She wants her gone immediately. And, you really do feel bad for Abigail at first, but as the film goes on, you start to realize the bond that Abigail and Queen Anne do have, and the direction her character goes in was not really what I was expecting, but she very quickly becomes, I think, the most sympathetic character of this entire film. I really loved where they ended up going with her. I really was not expecting it, and I think she did an absolutely tremendous job here, especially in the third act of this film. And same with Emma Stone. She also was very good here. Abigail starts off and you're really rooting for her, but she also takes some really dark turns, and I really love what she did here as well. The shift that her character undergoes was not what I was really expecting, but these three women, like I said, they really are at the top of their game. I think they all really do give fantastic performances, and it's one of the best trios that I have seen in any film this year. I mean, I myself don't usually like when, actors are nominated for the same film in one category, but I can understand why Stone and Weisz have both been nominated because they both very much deserve it here. Really, all three of these actresses, like I said, are at the top of their game. I think this is one of the best trios of the entire year, and if any of them get that awards consideration, I totally do understand it. I'm normally not for the Academy nominating more than one actor in one category, but for Weisz and Stone, I truly do understand because they really all are at the top of their game here. But now I really want to get to the directing and the writing, because obviously the directing here is fantastic. It's Yorgos Lanthimos, as I said, he's one of the most creative directors out here. But I feel like this film, he kind of had a tall task because, like I said, he's doing something fundamentally different here. He's not doing the conventional stuff we expect him to do, but he still is able to get a lot out of this film. The film itself, yeah, there are some moments that are really fucked up, and there are moments that definitely are very sadistic, but it is definitely, I think, the most normal of the films he's made. That being said, it's still a very weird and out there film, but it definitely is the most normal for sure. But the thing that he does so well with it is that even though the film is very sadistic, it never takes itself too seriously. There's a lot of comedy throughout this film. Probably the funniest yet, and there were a lot of really funny moments throughout this film. A lot of great stuff going on here that I really enjoyed a lot, and you don't see all the moments in the trailer. I thought they did a very good job with combining the comedy, but never letting it undermine the dramatic moments in the film, because the dramatic moments in this film really do stick out because of the comedy. A lot of the time, stuff is played for laughs, and then suddenly it's not anymore, and there's a really good blend there, and I think he did a very good job with that. But beyond that, I think he also crafted a very good story here. I really loved the work he did with this film. I liked that he was at the helm of it, and I liked that he really took a very different type of project under his wing. It shows that he's a director that isn't just, that isn't just great because of the bells and whistles. When all of that is stripped away, he still is a great director, and he does a very good job with that here. However, the writing is what I really want to get into with this film, because sure, we've seen this story done before. This is not entirely a new story. Two people who are vying for the affections of the same women, two people who are trying to get the same sort of position. We've seen that done many times before, but what this story does is it finds a way to make that feel fresh and make that feel different, and I really love that about the story, especially when it comes to the characters in this film. They're all so well written. Now, I will say right now, are these characters necessarily good people? No. No, they are not good people. All three of these women are abhorrent individuals, and I'm definitely not at all condoning what they do. I mean, even Rachel Weisz in the movie, even though, like I said, I think she is the most sympathetic of the three, she still is deliberately, her husband, for example, is in a war, and Olivia Colman doesn't care about. She clearly does it. She just doesn't care, and Rachel Weisz is continuing the war that her husband is in, which he could effectively end up getting killed. So, no, she's not necessarily a good person, but what I will say is I think all three of them are very well written. You do understand their motivation. You see why this matters to them, and that's something else that I really did love getting into. Take someone like Queen Anne, for example, who, like I said, at the surface, this is a terrible queen. I mean, she seems to have no care whatsoever for any sort of, government situation, anything that involves, anything that involves war or any sort of dealing. She just does not care about. She stays far away from, and she basically leaves Sarah to tend to all of her duties. And, she's constantly barking orders at people, and she seems to be whining all the time. And sure, you can see that as a very unlikable character, but when you start to peel back the layers, you realize this is a very damaged character, and that there's a lot that she has actually gone through, a lot of which I don't want to spoil because it wasn't something that I was expecting. The trailers make her seem very one-note, and she's anything but that. She's very well fleshed out. There's a lot more going on with her, and I thought it was very well done. I really love diving deeper into who she really is, and I think they did a great job with that here. Lanthimos never really cares about, are my characters good-natured people? That's not what he cares about. He cares about the plight that they're going through. He cares about the situations that they're dealing with, and that's something I really do love. But he actually didn't write the screenplay this time around, which is why probably a lot of that stilted dialogue isn't there, because of the fact that, you know, someone else is writing this film, but it very much does feel like a Yorgos film. It still has the feel of one, and I think they did a good, I think, you know, the writers of this film, they did a good enough job where it feels like Yorgos could have written it, and that's something else I really enjoyed about it. But again, there's enough in this film that you really can get behind, even though the characters, like I said, are not good people. There's enough going on with them that you can understand what they're going through. Emma Stone, for example, her character Abigail, has gone through a very traumatic past. She has kind of been disowned by her father. She's been in, you know, she has been raped multiple times, and it's very sad what's happened to her, so she's very easy to root for in that sense, and that's what this film does a great job with. It gives you characters to root for, and then it turns it on its head, and I really was not expecting them to go there, but this film goes in some really surprising directions, and that's something else that I really did love about it. It is very fun, but like I said, there is a darkness to this film that really is, you know, it really does permeate the entire thing. You're waiting for something really just awful to happen, and once it does, it's very shocking, and I really loved where they ended up going with it. It could have easily ruined the film, but it actually elevated it, and I really love that a lot here. And also, the rivalry that's going on in this film is extremely compelling. The lengths that these two go is just incredible. I mean, very quickly, you see that, you know, Emma Stone is someone who starts off with, like, all this humanity in her, and to see her just completely deviate away from that and focus less on herself and care more about just this rivalry itself, it just says a lot about people who are very competitive and how they're not doing it because they're, you know, they're not doing it because they're passionate. They're just doing it to one up each other, and it very quickly does become that, and it, you know, becomes very frivolous, and it becomes very you know, just ridiculous, and they do a very good job with capturing that. It's a very compelling film. Like I said, it goes in some very surprising directions, and I really loved where it ended up going here. There's this great scene with Weisz and Colman at the end of the film, and just seeing the differences between the way that Stone acts around Colman and the way that Weisz acts around her, you start to see where the actual relationship is, what's actually legit, and what is very superficial, and I think they just did a very good job with that. Again, the film doesn't take itself too seriously, but it knows when to take itself seriously, and that's why those serious moments stick out even more because of that. And I thought it was a genuinely heartbreaking moment where they end up going. I don't want to spoil too much, but it is fantastic, and I really love what they end up doing there. Let me just say right now, the cinematography to this film is immaculate. It is some of the best of the entire year. I mean, there are so many fisheye shots in this film, and it works so well to illustrate the point of what's going on. There's a lot of points where we won't hear any dialogue, and we just see these beautiful shots, and it's very well done. I really love Yorgos' style here. A lot of those, like, very daunting sort of close-ups, they're still very much there, and they work very well. And again, it never feels pretentious. It's there to illustrate a point, and he does a very good job with that, and I really love the cinematography here. There's some shots of this movie that are some of my favorites. The last shot especially, one of my favorites of the entire year. I loved where they end up going with that, and I think the cinematography really sticks out in this film very well. The score as well here, it's just so bombarding and investing. It really does put you into everything. It adds to the intensity, it adds to the fun, and it's one of my, I knew from the trailer there was going to be a great score, but it's easily one of my favorites of the entire year. It completely drives the film, and I really love the score here. And the editing, I do have one issue with the film, and the editing is the only one, and that is I think Emma Stone came in a little bit too early. I think that they could have spent at least 15 to 20 minutes developing the relation between Sarah and between Queen Anne, and then we could have gotten Abigail's introduction into the story. The film literally has a very quick scene between Sarah and Queen Anne, and then immediately Abigail is thrusted in, and I think they could have spent a little bit more time there. I get that they were just, briefly trying to show this, because we definitely got enough there. It's not that we didn't. I just wish we got just a little bit more, because then the emotional scenes would have felt even more impactful, and I wish they would have done this a little more there. Also, this is another one of those films that does that, like, 7-act structure thing, and just like Suspiria, I really don't know what the point of it was. I think it was very unnecessary. I don't think it needed to be here, and that's, just something that I don't really think needed to happen. That really is a nitpick, though. Now, I will say the ending of this movie is one that I think is going to piss a lot of people off. I think it's going to leave a lot of people very confused. In fact, it left a lot of my audience confused. These two women that were walking out of the theater literally said the movie was a waste of time because of it. And for me, on the other hand, I think it's one of the best endings of the year. Now, again, it's not the easiest ending. It is an ending that is very enriched in symbolism, and it could take a lot of people off guard because the film is pretty straightforward for the most part, but at the end, Lanthimos goes for something a lot more metaphorical, and I was able to understand it. I think it's a genius ending. I actually think it's one of the best endings of the entire year, but I can understand why someone would have a problem with it. But again, I really do credit him for going there. It's one of the reasons I adore Lanthimos as much as I do, because he just kind of goes for it. He doesn't really care what you think of his films. He does what he thinks is best for it, and I think this was definitely a really great way to end the film. I thought it was a very powerful ending, and I was very happy with the way it ended. Overall, The Favorite is fantastic. It's one of the best of the entire year. It's a film that is completely driven by its three leads. It has a lot of great social commentary on just competitiveness and things like that. It finds a way to make a film that could have been really boring, interesting. It has three of the best performances, like I said, the entire year. It has a really compelling story. It takes some it takes some very surprising twists. It has also one of the best endings of the entire year, a fantastic score. Yorgos Lanthimos is very quickly becoming one of the best in the business, I think, today. I really am loving pretty much everything he's doing. The film is getting a lot of accolades, and it really does deserve pretty much all of them. And aside from those two flaws, this is easily one of the best films of the entire year. It's riveting as hell, and it's one that I definitely am not going to forget. I could honestly see it rising to an A+ very soon, but it is definitely very close to one. And I am going to give The Favorite overall an A. But overall, guys, in my review, The Favorite, let me know what you guys saw this one overall, left your thoughts in it. Honestly, I'm so happy by all the acclaim this film is getting. I think it's about time that Yorgos Lanthimos become a bigger name. If you haven't seen his other films, definitely check those out. If you haven't seen this one, absolutely check this one out. It is of the highest recommendation for sure. All three of his films, honestly, are very much worth watching. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.